The actual case of the Menendez brothers is much more complicated than you think, with their case resurfacing thanks to the new Netflix drama series Monsters.
I'm an American citizen, and an American citizen has certain rights. It's in the Constitution!
We're gonna take a deep dive into what actually happened, and stick around to the end of the video to hear about whether or not the boys are gonna be getting released. And if this video leaves you wanting to hear more about true crime, you can go ahead and check out my last video where we talked about Deadpool Killer, aka Wade Wilson. Now sit back, relax, leave me on as background noise for all I care, and enjoy. Now the oldest brother, Joseph Menendez, who actually goes by his middle name Lyle, was born on January 10th of 1968. And Erik Menendez, the younger brother, was born on November 27th of 1970. Their family, who was originally living in New Jersey. Their family, who was originally living in New York, ended up moving to New Jersey around the time that Erik was born. And in the year of 1976 is when the boys' cousin Diane ended up coming over to their house to stay with them. Also, quick side note before we get too far into this story, YouTube doesn't like it when you say certain words. So if you hear me rhyming words, use a little context clues. We're gonna improv it, but you're gonna know what I'm talking about. But anyway, going back to the story, Diane later confessed that around this time is when Lyle ended up telling her his own father was sexually abusing him. Now, Diane obviously ran to tell the boy's mother what Lyle had just told her. Kitty, the boy's mom, ended up siding with her husband, claiming that Lyle had just made the whole thing up. What 9-year-old is coming up with that story and going around and telling people that? I don't understand that thought process, but okay. But that one account was the one and only time Diane had ever heard anything along the lines of sexual assault or abuse going on in the household. And then unfortunately, once Lyle turned 8 years old is when their father stopped abusing Lyle and moved on to his younger brother Erik, who was only 6 years old at the time. In the year of 1968 is when their father Jose ended up becoming the executive director at RCA Records. So they ended up moving their whole family to the sunny state of California. And then that following year, he ended up becoming CEO of a company whose name I'm totally about to butcher probably. It was what does this even say? Artisan Entertainment. That's gonna be my best attempt at that name. Hopefully it's right. Erik attended Beverly Hills High School where he demonstrated extreme talent for tennis. He even went as far as ranking 44th in the United States as a junior in high school, which we actually do see a little bit of his love for tennis in the Netflix show. However, Erik did take Teenage Rebellion to a whole other level, as he ended up taking part in a string of burglaries. He did get out of jail time by agreeing to go to court-mandated therapy. And it was also at this time where Lyle ended up going to Princeton University. However, he was placed on academic probation just due to low grades, and eventually he was placed on suspension due to plagiarism. Now at this part in the story is when things take an extreme turn for the Menendez family. On the evening of August 29th, did y'all hear that stutter? I'm embarrassed. Jose and Kitty were in their den in their home in Beverly Hills, just relaxing, enjoying their evening, watching TV. And this is when Lyle and Erik entered the den. And let's just say they walked in carrying 24 gauge pew-pews. And what they proceeded to do is absolutely gruesome, and I'm warning you right now, if you don't want to hear about it, skip ahead to this timestamp, because there's no turning back once you hear this. The Menendez brothers go on to shoot their father 6 times, including one last fatal shot to the head. Now their mother, on the other hand, was shot 10 times, and before getting their last shot in, she attempted to crawl away, but the boys had run out of ammunition, so as she's crawling away, they simply walk to the car, reload their pew-pews, walk back in, and give her one last shot to the head, killing her. Moments after, the boys just kind of stood around waiting for the police to come because they assumed somebody called it in, just given how loud they were just being. And once they came to the realization that nobody was coming is when they began to dispose of their clothes and bury the pew-pews somewhere along Mulholland Drive. The brothers then left and drove to the movies to buy tickets for Batman, but they bailed on that plan given that the timestamps would be printed out on the tickets, so that just wouldn't be a useful alibi. So instead they went with plan B, and they ended up going to a music festival in Santa Monica called Taste of LA. Once they returned home and realized once again that there were no police at their home, Lyle calls 911 and reports that their parents were killed by an unknown intruder.
Beverly Hills emergency?
Yes, police.
What's the problem? What's the problem? What's the problem?
Someone killed my parents.
Pardon me?
Someone killed my parents.
What? Who? Are they still there?
Yes.
The people...
No.
Were they shot?
Hey, man,
Were they shot?
Yes.
They were shot?
Yes.
112 response. 722 North Elmore.
What happened? Hey, stand up,
I have a hysterical person on. We're trying to get things further. Other units responding. Is the person still there?
What happened? We have units around. What happened? Who shot who?
I don't hear anything. I just came home.
You came home and found who shot?
I'm mom and dad. You know if they're still in the house, the people that did the shooting.
Get away from him. Okay, hang on. Let me talk to Erik. Who is the person that was shot?
My mom and my dad.
Your mom and dad?
My mom and my dad.
Okay, hold on a second. Okay, we're on our way over there with the ambulance.
Okay, I gotta go.
Okay.
Once the police arrived, they did not check the boys for pew-pew residue, which would have said whether or not they'd recently fired one. In the months that followed, neither brother was acting like their parents had just been brutally murdered. They were actually acting as if they had just won the lottery, because given that Jose was worth about a whopping $14 million, within a 6-month span, they had spent over $700,000. Oh my god. Now, Lyle, who's 21 at the time, ended up spending his money on a Rolex, a Porsche, new clothes, and a whole restaurant back in Princeton. Now, Erik was slightly more responsible, but still spending money, as he spent his money on a Jeep Wrangler, a personal tennis coach, and invested $40,000 into a rock concert that never ended up happening. And the two would also go on extremely extravagant vacations, as they were just waiting for their father's life insurance to kick in, which was about $5 million, but just due to technicalities, they ended up never ever receiving it. Now, after the murders as well, Erik's old therapist, whose name I'm completely about to butcher, Dr. Oziel, ended up reaching out to Erik and began treating him again. And it did not take long for Dr. Oziel to get a confession out of Erik. Now, Oziel confided in a woman named Judalon Smith. I'm sorry if I just butchered that name too, whom he was seeing at the time. And Judalon actually plays a huge part in this court case, which you're gonna hear about later on in this video. Now, Dr. Oziel continues to treat Erik and somehow managed to get Erik and Lyle's confession on tape, detailing every single thing that they had done. Erik had claimed that they did it to put their mother out of her misery, and Lyle in the tapes made it very, very clear that they both had a part in this crime. Now, also come to find out, Dr. Oziel was abusing Smith, and allegedly after attacking her, Smith ran straight to the Beverly Hills Police Department and revealed that the Menendez brothers confessed to the unaliving of both of their parents. And at this point, she whips out the tapes entailing their confessions. So Lyle was arrested on March 8th of 1990. However, Erik was in Israel at a tennis tournament. He'd flown to Miami, and then he flew back to Los Angeles, where he turned himself into the police on March 11th of 1990. Now, figuring out whether or not the tapes would fall under doctor-patient confidentiality was the most challenging part of the entire court case. So much so that it took them 2 full years to come to a conclusion. Now, during this time, there were several lawsuits, several appeals, all flying back and forth between the Menendez brothers and the prosecution. But finally, the Supreme Court of California had ruled that 2 out of the 3 tapes were in fact eligible to be used in court, one of which included Lyle's confession of his guilt. The trials officially began in 1993, with each brother getting a complete separate job. jury, with a separate jury for each of the brothers. The trial was also broadcasted on Court TV, which at the time was a relatively new station. The network not only captured the entire court proceeding, but they also gave back-to-back coverage of the days before and after each proceeding.
Yes, I do. Erik Galen Menendez, Menendez.
What's your full name and spell your last name?
Joseph Lyle Menendez, Menendez.
Mr. Menendez, are you related to Erik Galen Menendez, who's seated here?
He's my brother.
And this back-to-back coverage is what made this court case so infamous. The prosecution had argued that the Menendez brothers their parents in order to get their insurance money, but the brothers argued that they shot them in self-defense. The brothers stated that their father wasn't just a man with extremely high expectations, and that he was actually extremely emotionally abusive. And the brothers had also shared that their father had SA'd Lyle from the ages of 6 to 8 years old, and Erik 6 to 18 years old. And these claims also came with graphic detail, which not only shocked the nation, but also shocked their entire family. So the main argument coming from the brothers' lawyers is that the boys acted in self-defense after growing up in such an abusive and traumatizing household. At one point, Lyle even testified that he ended up confronting his father about SAing Erik just days before the unaliving. And Lyle had taken his father's extremely angry response as a death threat. The defense also attacked Kitty, their mother, for being an alcoholic and a drug addict, and that she was just devastated by her husband's multiple affairs. So the first trial lasted about 6 months, and the juries were both hung on whether or not they were guilty or not, which brings us to the second trial, which they announced that the boys will be tried together. So the second trial was in 1995, but this time around, no TV cameras were allowed in the courtroom. The judge also claimed that there was not enough evidence to prove that Jose was actually abusing his children. And Smith also testified in this second round of the trial and said that she'd felt that Aziel manipulated the brothers into getting their confession. However, her efforts fell short as the boys were found guilty of first degree on March 21st of 1996, and they were each given life without parole. With the attention the case is receiving again after the Netflix show Monsters has came out, it was announced by LA prosecutors that they were reviewing new evidence supporting claims of SA involving both of the brothers. They put out a statement saying, "I know this is an area of tremendous interest nationally, especially since the Netflix documentary has come out. We're getting a lot of calls." And the Menendez brothers' lawyers said that they should not only look over the new evidence, but they should also consider resentencing them based on their new level of rehabilitation and overall conduct inside the prison. One of the new pieces of evidence includes a letter sent by one of the brothers' family members that entails him being molested. So, it is now speculated that if the brothers were to get a retrial, they could very much walk out same day, given that they have already served 35 years in prison. So, a hearing regarding their new evidence is scheduled for November 29th, so we shall see what is going to happen. So, as we can tell from that, the story of the Menendez brothers is a yawning dog. It's far from over. With Monsters from Netflix stirring up debates and new legal developments coming to light, their future is, safe to say, unknown. But let me know what you guys think. Should the Menendez brothers be released, or do you think they should remain behind bars for the rest of their life? If you found this deep dive interesting, there's a lot more similar to this on my channel. Feel free to check it out. Please don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed, and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on the next video. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and keep questioning. Bye! I'm having a stroke. Hello? It is blurry. Hello? Can I read? Oh my god. Wait, what am I saying? No thoughts behind these eyes. I lost my whole train of thought. And I don't even know where to go from here.